Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to What's Next Wall Street. I'm Georgia Alfredas.
And I'm Dave Mathews out in the wood in Healdsburg, Sonoma County. What's up? This is not fake. That's a real backdrop, everybody, for those of you watching.
Are you sure you didn't say, hey, AI, create me with this beautiful background and even make the birds chirp? I hear birds chirping.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because we're going to dig into that, Georgia. This is a show where finance, tech, AI, and all the market collides. And today is no exception.
Hey, y'all want to chat? Not you, Dave. We chat all the time. Y'all can drop us a line at www.show@gmail.com or hit us up on socials at What's Next Wall Street. And do not forget to catch all the action on our YouTube channel, WNW Show. Listen, you have to see where Dave is. It looks like you're in a movie set, dude. That's beautiful. What's the weather?
64 degrees with a chance of a glass of wine very soon after we record this show.
Okay, y'all, hit subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss out on the latest episodes.
Yeah, and we need your help because we have a new YouTube channel this year, so it's at WNW Show. And see if you like what you see. You know, if you like listen to us, you'll like to see us, tell your friends, and hit subscribe so we can grow this up.
Absolutely.
Hey, the big boss over United Airlines is trying to calm everyone down like Taylor Swift after a string of recent incidents. Do you think a string, like one or two a week?
Right.
I guess that's a string. It has people worried about safety. CEO Scott Kirby sent out a letter to customers this week saying that they're taking a close look at each of these cases to beef up their safety training and procedures. Last week, one of Boeing's planes landed in Oregon after missing a chunk of its exterior panel. I think that's a landing gear door. And that's not all. There have been a couple more incidents with Boeing planes, like the one that went off the road in Houston. Another lost its tire into the employee parking lot after taking off from San Francisco, right? So Kirby revealed that United is hitting the pause button on ordering any more of those Boeing MAX 10 aircraft and thinking about jumping ship to Airbus, Boeing's main competition, which, by the way, American Airlines buys from both. So meanwhile, the head of the FAA, Michael Whitaker, said that Boeing's safety protocols are not what would be expected if safety is the priority. His comments came after an FAA audit found Boeing more focused on mass production than safety standards. And when I landed in San Francisco last week from South by Southwest, I thanked the pilot for keeping all the wheels on the plane instead of on the ground. And I go, are we wheels down on the ground with the plane? And I go, is that too soon? He goes, yeah, too soon.
Wow.
But when McDonnell Douglas and Boeing merged, McDonnell Douglas was said to be thinking about profits over product. And Boeing had phrases like, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going, because they really focused on the safety standards in the past. And if you like Stephen Colbert, I
love Stephen Colbert. He's the
not Stephen Colbert, the other guy. John Oliver.
Oh, okay, yeah. He's
funny
John
Oliver, hilarious. He did a whole segment. If you want to get the deep dive on this, go to YouTube and do John Oliver last week tonight, Boeing. And oh my gosh, he talks about this to the nth degree and really dives deep into what Boeing's missteps have been lately around production and safety standards. And I heard they're even using like a hotel key card to measure gaps and Dawn soap to put on rubber gaskets when they put the plane together. Look, I rebuild cars all the time.
Stop.
I use Dawn soap.
No.
I use key cards. But should Boeing be doing this?
Absolutely not. That's your life you have in your hands, not mine. I mean, but let me ask you this. Is it Boeing's fault or is it United's fault? Like, is it that they're not training their people to look for doors that might fall off or screw the wheels in better? Whose fault is it? It sounds like it's Boeing's fault, but I don't know.
So it's both, right? So Boeing has safety bulletins and Boeing has production rules, but Boeing uses a bunch of vendors. And this is like the same thing that happened 2 decades ago with the Hubble Space Telescope, where multiple vendors are working on projects. And next thing you know, the satellite doesn't have the right focus for the camera, right?
Yeah.
So in this case of the door plug falling out, that was a vendor. They didn't install the bolts because the vendor delivered this section of the plane and there was no protocol for those bolts to hold the door latches in. But with United not locking the lug nut on the wheel, I don't think they've made a put together the NTSB output for that yet. But it could be that a United maintenance worker did not put the right torque onto that lug nut. And from what I
come
understand,
on, are
it's
you
just
serious?
a single lug nut, right?
Wow.
But something could have failed. Like when my friends and I owned our 747, we were tugging it around the yard, and the axle is only rated for so many landings and takeoffs because all the weight that's on that axle. And we had a stress line crack, and we literally rolled the axle and the wheel off the plane. Now, mind you, our plane was not safe for flying. It was only for hippies at Burning Man. But we did crack an axle, and the wheel rolled off into the desert. These wheels are like 5 feet tall. They're massive.
Former Treasury bigwig Steven Mnuchin, did you see this? He's making moves to snag TikTok. He's rounding up a crew of investors to snatch up the mega popular video app from ByteDance. Now, why the hustle, you ask? Why the hustle,
Why the
you ask?
hustle? Georgia, why the hustle?
Well, the House recently gave a thumbs up to a bill that basically tells ByteDance, sell TikTok or kiss it goodbye in the U.S., buddy. Mnuchin is all about it, okay, saying it's high time TikTok flew the American flag in terms of ownership. Now, he's not the only one. Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary is interested, and so is Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovsky. Say that 3 times fast. But here's the thing. TikTok's most valuable asset, and the thing that's concerning lawmakers the most, is its algorithm. Now, a sell without the algorithm would be a lot less attractive to potential buyers.
And I hear that the algorithm's different for China, right? They see videos about STEAM and STEM and reprogramming and making rockets to go to the moon that are very inspiring for their economy, future economy, rather.
Yes.
And then we're seeing videos like, how to put ass implants in and
how
how
to make
many...
your lips look bigger in cats. But who doesn't love cats?
We love cats, right? But the creator economy is completely freaking out about this. When I was at South by Southwest last week, a lot of people were talking about where to go next to have the reach that TikTok has. Now think about it. Instagram and X, they've been late to the game with monetization.
Always late.
Right? But I see them working hard to create algorithms to get viewer counts up and let users get more followers and ultimately subscribers. And also that subscribe button that's happening on Instagram. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it. It was like a big
so
raise like YouTube.
Yeah, well, no, YouTube, it's free subscription, which is weird. They shouldn't have called it that. They should have called it like followers on YouTube, and then subscribers should be around monetization.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, China's foreign ministry is slamming the TikTok bill, calling it an act of bullying and claiming the ban will backfire and boomerang itself right back to the U.S.
Yeah.
And some small businesses say a ban on TikTok would have an impact on the economy. Now, social media site gives small businesses a unique avenue to reach customers, and it's an effective part of their marketing strategy. Like, how many companies and brands do you find out about that you never would have heard of through Insta or TikTok?
I flipping hate it. I have so much stuff around my house that I don't need because of Instagram, but I would never have known about these small businesses if it wasn't for Instagram. So I get that.
Right. And the small business owners, they say it's going to be harder to reach young customers without it because, like, who's on Facebook anymore? I'm barely on it these days myself.
Yeah, same.
All right, G, check this out. And
What?
Also at South by Southwest, the organizers created a video of several AI speakers like Amy Webb, Kara Swisher, formerly of Wall Street Journal, and Josh Constine, who is a VC now, but he was formerly a journalist at TechCrunch. Before the screening of many movies, they compiled a 1-minute-long video from clips from all these speakers, either being pro-AI or emphasizing the nascent tech's importance, with 1,500 panels on AI at South by Southwest. It was the hype of the year. Now, the video didn't land as organizers thought, as throughout the film screenings, when they played this bumper at the beginning, audiences yelled out boos based upon what the speakers earlier in the week had mentioned.
What?
Now, you can find this clip on my social media, and feel free to act with me over on X at GGDM, which stands for Gossip Girl Direct Message.
Come on, man.
Probably not.
Okay, so Dave, do you remember, this is crazy to your point, remember when Americans were afraid that all our good jobs were going abroad? Turns out they're not going abroad.
No.
What they used to say, they're taking all our good jobs. You didn't want them jobs. You did not want those jobs. But anyway. Turns out the good jobs are going to AI. The biggest potential disruption to the real estate industry could be artificial intelligence bots. Experts say these well-trained robots could outshine most human brokers and won't break the bank. Imagine this, Dave. AI that's learned from top-notch brokers, zipping new listeners or listings straight to clients the moment they pop up, speeding up all the paperwork and payments for closing deals and even chatting with you around the clock in a really friendly, human, yet, I don't know how it could not be creepy like way. But let's be real, Dave. People have always questioned whether or not their broker's fees matched up with what they actually bring to the table. Now, if a robot can give me 80% of the value at just 1% of the cost, that's like snagging prime real estate at a yard sale. I might just have to take that creepy thing up on it. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry.
The worst part about listings that I see are all the fake listings, and I hope that the AIs can determine who the other AI creeps are and get rid of the fake stuff, because the old adage, if it looks too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
Absolutely. Today's pro tip is brought to you by OptionsPlayers.com. Diversifying your investments is key for a solid strategy. Spread your money across different assets and sectors to lower the risk of big losses. Make sure your mix matches your goals and risk tolerance. Keep an eye on your portfolio and tweak it as needed. Diversification isn't about ditching all risk. It's about making savvy choices for steady returns over time. And guess what? It's a long-term game, y'all. At Options Players, they're all about teaching these tricks to help you manage your investments like a pro.
Hey, now it's our turn to hear from you, so that means it's your turn. Reach out on our socials at What's Next Wall Street. Leave a comment on our YouTube videos if you're watching this below, or shoot us an email at wwshow@gmail.com. Let's dive into our first email from Antonio in San Antonio.
Cute.
Dude, nailed it. Right on brand. He has a question for Greg. Is there a lot of money in the market now, or is it mostly on the sidelines? What would be a catalyst for change? All right, Greg, interest rates are at 5.5%. If you're, you got some money in savings, how much of that's in savings versus in the market?
All right. So, Antonio, is there a lot of money on the sideline? First, let's discuss what the sideline is. People aren't just holding cash, or putting their money on, the edge of the football field. Normally, when we say sidelines, that means it's in low risk, normally lower yield investments. Think maybe treasuries, bonds, things like that. So, and they're not putting them into higher yield possibilities, greater risk, such as equities and so on. Now, money isn't just sitting there. Nobody's just letting inflation take money. So they're putting it into real estate or something like that somewhere. All right. Or, like I said, into yields. I think we have probably a lot of money in bonds and stuff like that into other yields, because yields are so, because Fed rate is up, yields are going to be higher also. So, there was no money in yields when you were getting 1%, 2%, right? So now that it's a little bit higher, you have some money put there. Now people, you call me and say, hey, I can offer you a CD and I'm going to give you 2%. I'm going to laugh at you. If you can give me 6 or 7, maybe I'll put it in there. So the big question is when do the majority of these actually mature, and when will we actually see those come in? Now, I haven't done a lot of research on this by any means, but I do recall something, and I don't want to use someone else's work, but it's like $6 trillion that is sitting in other bonds that could be moved to other avenues of or instruments of investment, such as the stock market. Now, you know me, I'm a pessimist. I always think the stock market is overpriced. And I don't know, maybe it is. I think what's happening really with the market is big companies are just taking out every small company. There are no more small businesses, that's starting up and doing very well. And big companies are just shutting everybody out. So in the end, companies that don't report to the stock market and something ain't making anything anymore. And then, big corporations take over. And I think that's kind of where we're at in this huge cycle. Maybe that'll change, but probably not. Every corporation's just gotten wealthier and wealthier and wealthier in the last couple of decades, and it's not going to change. All right. So, like I said, the biggest catalyst there for that change would be when they mature. And I don't really know that, but when rates start to come down, you're going to see people stop putting money into that yield and then put it back into other avenues of investments, or, So that might be stocks, might not be.
Thanks, Greg. Okay, this second question comes to us from Wilma in Pensacola, Florida, who asks, is China still hoarding metals, and should we be buying U.S. miners since they have yet to move higher at the rate of the metals? Greg?
All right, Wilma, is China hoarding metals? And should you invest in U.S. miners? You got me another one, something I don't really know exactly the extent of China's hoarding. China is the number one producer of gold. They go everywhere on the planet and basically just take everybody's gold. I can tell you stories about in Africa and things like that of how Chinese people just walked in, just started mining for gold in some countries and stuff. But I don't know, that might still be classified. But they're getting a lot of, they're hoarding metals, and I think hoarding all that gold especially is is their way to battle the de-dollarization. Man, okay, yeah. So they're trying to hurt the U.S. dollar is one way out of that. Do I think U.S. miners can do it? All right, we have plenty of stuff here, metals and stuff like that in the United States, lithium, and we have plenty. People look at America, they don't understand how big it is. We have a lot of land and a lot of minerals. Now, whether or not we're going to be able to mine for those or someone's going to cry about it is another story. South America, things like that. The United States, in a sense, is just really hasn't been going out globally and making partnerships to actually mine it. So we'll see. I don't know if buying U.S. miners is a great way for that. I'm not against it. Just don't be one of those people that buy leveraged miners and hold it. So what I'm talking about is like gold and all those little, all those other stupid things that you can buy that's like 3x this. That is basically options on it. And there's a huge thing. They always go to zero. So you can buy it and trade it interdaily, but it's not an investing tool. You don't put your money there hoping it's going to double. All right. So trade it in the daytime and then let it go. Other than that, cobalt and all those rare earth metals are huge. If you want to go green, you want to, if you're a far look, I don't want to say leftist, but because it's everyone's problem. But if you're a complete tree hugger, I guess you could say it's not lefty, potassium is a big issue right now. The Earth's soils has been losing potassium for many reasons. Globalization is one of them, but and then basically running down. And guess what needs potassium? That's right, all the plants that we eat. So don't get rid of all the animals right now because you're probably going to run out of potassium. Then we won't be able to grow anything. All right, so focus on that. Find some potassium. It's going to be the hardest thing to get besides water probably in 50, 60 years. Other than that, I don't know about the actually go into miners. I would normally stay out of them unless that's the area you want to focus on. But I'm not going to focus on miners, tech, and then something else. That's a lot. I'd rather just stick my money in the market and just let it go, right? So I'll just put it in S&P 500 instead of trying to try 9 things and then focus on one thing that interests me. I do love Gold Rush, the show, but I don't want to research a bunch of miners. Right? I just want to sit there and watch it. All right, let's go.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Y'all got questions burning a hole in your pocket? Greg might just have the answers. Email him at greg@optionsplayers.com. And of course, you can hit us up at WNWshow@gmail.com or on socials at What's Next Wall Street.
Well, NVIDIA just had their big event in San Francisco this week, and let me confirm to you that they have a lead on AI processor tech, but aren't resting on their laurels as Sam Altman of OpenAI is attempting to raise billions of dollars for their own chip design. Now, think about that. Who makes their own chips? It's Qualcomm, it's Intel, it's ARM, it's TSMC. But it takes billions of dollars to do that. Like even for Apple, for their chips, they had to buy a startup that was making chips and then take billions of dollars to put on top of that. So as we've talked about on the show before, Georgia broke it. NVidia is riding high on its soaring stock price and the AI boom, and announced big moves to capitalize on this at its annual AI and chip conference this week. This included humanoid robots, which were kind of cool and creepy, a new Blackwell chip that will be twice as fast at training AI models and 5 times faster at inference, which is the term for generating the output from an already trained model. Now, this wasn't always rosy. Their CEO, Jensen Huang, has led NVIDIA since co-founded back in 1993, when the company pioneered the concept of GPUs, or graphics processors that are high-performance chips for rendering 3D games, and other intensive mathematical PC apps. Now, their first chip was released in 1995. That's 3 years later about from when they started the company, right? And it didn't do that well. Then in 1997, they dropped the Rivia 128, which probably meant 128 megs of RAM, and megs, not gigs like we use today. But back then, there were a lot of competition from manufacturers like ATI and their extremely popular line of 3DFX cards, and also the Voodoo cards. There's a lot of cards you could put in your computer, so NVIDIA wasn't the only game. Now, fast forward to 2024, and he's looking pretty smart because this upcoming Blackwell GPU, graphic processor unit, will have 208 billion transistors, smashing the current 80 billion on their top-of-the-line H100 GPUs that they've been selling like hotcakes. Now, get on this. They're expected to cost $40,000 per chip. That's crazy.
Wait,
but the increase, yeah, just the chip. By the time they put it on the board, who knows, right? So the increased transistors in the chips mean they'll be twice as fast at training AI models and 5 times faster on user output on that already trained model. NVIDIA is also pushing a new GB200 super chip that will include not 1, but 2 Blackwell GPUs coupled together with its Grace CPU for use in data centers. Now, Georgia, you're thinking like, what, 80 grand worth of chips? Yeah. Who's going to buy that?
What am I going to do with that? What do I need that for? And who can afford it?
Exactly. But Apple's done this too with their chips. They put 2 on a die so your computer can have the best processing power inside of a data center. So what's going to happen with this is Amazon will buy a bunch, and so will other, providers that allow shared access to computers and data centers. Now, think about it. Bill Gates, when he first started writing software with Paul Allen, they didn't own a computer. They'd write code out by hand, and even Woz, when he designed the Apple, they all wrote and drew circuit designs and software by hand. And then they used computers that were time-shared. In the case of Gates, it was his parents' computers at their law firm that they used overnight when the law firm wasn't using it. Yes. So data centers are the way to go, because then I, as a developer, don't have to buy a $40,000 chip. I can use it in a data center and pay, like $1,700 a month or something for it.
Yeah.
So you have to think, though, companies are going to be reluctant to fully embrace the generative AI revolution because they're worried about the expense and how that might affect their net zero sustainability. Well, not just the expense of the chip itself, but also think about all these pledges, right? The New York Times wrote last year about the power demands of AI and said they could skyrocket to as much as 134 terawatts per hour by 2027. That's as much as a country like Argentina, where I just got back from a trip there, which I also recommend visiting. That whole country would use 134 terawatt hours.
Crazy.
Right? So this is just the AI industry. Now, we live in a world with global issues around power generation, and off the heels of blockchain's use of energy, which was insurmountable, we have a current and urgent need to make things more efficient and reduce energy for the future of our planet. Because I don't think we have an extra one. But in the large scope of things, data centers currently use just 1% of the world's power, with estimates on AI being a fraction of that 1%. To put that into perspective, Schneider Electric estimated that AI consumes about as much power annually as the nation of Cyprus. Georgia, have you been to Cyprus?
I know where it is, but I've never been there. No.
I think I was there for a layover, but I should schedule a trip to go back just to make sure that I've been there for a layover and maybe learn a little bit more. But that number of power consumption is going to climb due to AI. Everybody's AI crazy. One expert at Microsoft has suggested that the NVIDIA H100s in deployment will consume about as much power as all of Phoenix by the end of this year. But think about it. That state has a ton of swamp coolers on roofs, but their average temperature is only 73 degrees Fahrenheit.
I don't believe you. I used to live in
seemed low to me.
Scottsdale, which is right outside of Phoenix, and it felt like it was 100 degrees even in the winter. But you know what? It does get kind of chilly at night, but I just was always hot. So, I mean, I don't know.
It's the big swings.
Interesting.
That's all this is.
Yeah.
But at least at this week's conference, NVIDIA was thinking about power. With the new Blackwell chips, power consumption during training was far less than the old Series H100 and earlier A100 chips. Wang said that training the latest AI models using 2,000 Blackwell GPUs would use 4 megawatts of power over 90 days, compared to having to use 8,000 of the older GPUs. So look at that. You only need to buy 2,000 of these at $40,000 each.
That's it?
You don't need 8,000.
Oh, good. Thanks.
But this compares to the hourly power of 30,000 homes in the past to only 8,000 homes today. And if you do the math at $40,000, it's probably like only 1,000 homes cost to, I don't know. This is just out of control.
What? I'm like,
yeah.
It's a
lot. And
lot.
then it gets even more interesting. This really surprised me, Georgia. They're working on a way to design spaces using Apple's Vision Pro. And on a prior show, we talked about how
Vision Pro.
Yeah, nobody liked it. Everybody's returning it. But there is some rumor that Apple's trying to do one for $2,000 instead of their, current $4,000 price.
Okay. All right.
Now, CEO Jinsing Huang said they're diving deep into next-gen robotics with Project Groot. Oh, isn't it cute that they're naming this after Marvel characters?
Oh, Groot. I am Groot.
They're aiming for bots that learn from watching humans with visual input, which could get creepy. And you can watch a YouTube video of this. It's pretty cool.
No thanks.
And although their names are cute, with Jetson Thor, which is part of the Isaac Robotics platform, which Isaac Asimov gave the rules of robots that they should not hurt humans. They're just going right into sci-fi with this. They're just dialing this right in. So we're not going to be creeped out with it.
Let me tell you something. I've seen too many movies about this. Guess what robots are going to do? Hurt humans. I know y'all think I'm crazy. Just like I told y'all to buy NVIDIA like a year and a half ago. I'm telling y'all robots are going to rule the world. And I know I sound crazy, but I'd be sorry that you loved all this AI stuff. You like to have it write your resumes and your papers in college, but you're not going to like it when you're humanoid. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're spending a lot of time in NVIDIA for this general purpose foundation, like a platform for humanoid robots. Look, I don't know if I'm ready for my Roomba, which cutely doubles as a cat hover round. A cat hover round.
You could use that. You could use that as a hat hover round too.
Yeah.
What?
I don't want my Roomba to be a humanoid anything.
Yeah.
But
same.
They will allow game designers also to do stuff like create characters who have unscripted communications between themselves and your character in the game. What? Now, this is typically done with fuzzy logic that have several options for speech that the game would choose behind. Behind the scenes, it would seem like life. It would say like, oh, if you did this, this, and this in the game, it would say something to you. But Georgia, how many times were your kids playing Madden and you'd hear the same thing that John Madden would say over and over and over again?
Phrase, yeah.
Right? So they're trying to make video games a little more novel and clever with auto-generated scripts, which blows my mind.
That's fantastic, but leave it in the video game. That's all. Just leave it in the video game. That'd be cool. Yeah.
Now, NVIDIA is partnering up with global powerhouses like Siemens for industrial applications and John Deere for autonomous farming. Plus, their platforms are hitting the streets and hopefully not hitting the cars in the streets with partnerships from Toyota and their platform of Jetson Thor for autonomous vehicles. Now, they're also buddying up with big names in robotics, hinting at some major leaps in the AI and robotics scene. Now, Georgia, to your point, Chinese and Western academics are issuing a stark warning on AI risks, and they're sharing so-called red lines. Now, these experts in AI and international security met in Beijing last week and agreed on these red lines that all nations should ensure that AI does not cross, including AI with the ability to autonomously create bioweapons or perpetuate devastating cyber attacks, which is reported by the Financial Times. Now, think about it. Like, AI is really good at writing software. So therefore, if it's really good about understanding vulnerabilities, an AI could write a program that very succinctly targets a vulnerability in systems. And that's why in the show, I tell you guys all the time when to upgrade your iOS. And a lot of times, if you listen to last week's show, Apple gives you incentives to upgrade your OS by like giving you the lime emoji or crap like that.
Like that.
Well, that stuff that comes for free. But the updates on these zero-day attacks will prevent something like a human or an AI from going after these vulnerabilities in the system.
Fair.
Now, some of the AI luminaries at this event were Turing Award winners, and Turing Award is how you quiz a AI to see if it's lifelike or not. And there's winners that have created chatbots that seemed extremely lifelike, even though they were all coded examples.
Fair.
And some of these pioneers were Jeffrey Hinton, who left Google because he said the AI was getting too creepy, and Yoshua Bingo, Stuart Russell, who's a well-known computer scientist at UC Berkeley, and even Andrew Yao, among China's most prominent computer scientists. Now, comparing the international agreement to similar agreements around weapon systems made during the Cold War, think about it. We had so many nuclear stockpiles that we could blow up the Earth, 400 times? We're trying to create something where humanity needs to coordinate to avert a catastrophe that could arise from this unprecedented technology.
So you think the world's going to agree? The world's going to agree on something at this point? Come on.
Yeah, but I think this is much cleverer than what they tried to do, a year ago when they said we needed a 6-month moratorium on AI. Like, who's going to stop, right? Innovation doesn't stop.
Yeah.
But at least now we're saying, like, we're not going to draw the lines. But think about it. During the Cold War, NATO would go around and make inspections of nuclear arms. And remember when they said, like, Iran had a bunch of bunkers full of Iranian-made missiles that they wouldn't allow NATO to see? And Iran's like, nope, you're not going to come inspect us anymore.
Right.
But with AI is all software. So how do you do the inspection?
It's going to be impossible to find. It's going to be easy to hide and impossible to find.
That's right. Needles in haystacks, and those haystacks cost $80,000 for those chips combined on that one processor board.
Oh my gosh.
And there are extradition issues where you can't release certain computers. And even Iran, they were building with PlayStation 4s, they were building rendering farms for their nuclear program. And you could not export a PlayStation 4, which actually at the time it could run Linux, so you could make it a full-purpose computer to do graphical rendering, because the PlayStation, the video game consoles, had amazing GPUs on them. So, look, going back to NVIDIA, I have not seen a company take on this many vertical industries in a long time. I think that they have the juice and vision to do it. And just look at how long their founder, Jensen, has been working on this vision for complex mathematical solutions to create new experiences for end users. Like, he couldn't have predicted Bitcoin. He couldn't have predicted AI, or maybe AI. AI has been around in science fiction. But he was concentrating on video games, and that's doing a lot of math for polygons to do shapes. And now he's taking all those processors and focusing on AI because blockchain went over to ASICs. So they grew up out of the PC gaming world and are working on the future of industrial, scientific, and of course AI, which we're just beginning to see the real value of. Because remember, it's only been a year since ChatGPT wowed us as the most platform growth ever, but it quickly fell off as a novelty act for bad poetry and soulless music creation. But for now, Intel is a downtrodden player and NVIDIA is diamond handing to the moon. But you need to decide if their stock price is too high now or has some room to grow. They're at an all-time high, Georgia. They're up 1,900% in 5 years.
Wow.
You don't want to get on the train too late, but if you got in it early, good for you. Let me know in your comment section at What's Next Wall Street Show, and let me know what you think.
Okay, this is going to be the shortest consumer trends section ever because I'm just going to piggyback off what Dave's talking about. All anybody's talking about is NVIDIA. They've developed this super chip and a super robot, and I just want to know if I can get super rich from the stock. Greg, let me ask you, is NVIDIA super stock? Well, we know it's a super stock because it's up so high, but what I want to know is there still a chance to buy the stock, or is it just is it even overpriced because look at everything they're doing? I mean, is there a chance for it to go up even more? What say you, Greg?
All right. So is NVIDIA a super stock? Well, if super stock means it's one of the most valuable companies in the world, I think it's number 3 right now. Yeah, I mean, that's a super stock. Now, give me a definition of what that means, and then I might change my answer. Um, do I think there's a chance to get in it? I'm a reversion to the mean, guys. I'm always looking for, I want it cheaper. I'm not going to chase anything. With that being said, I've owned NVidia recently, and then the volatility was so crazy that when it was in the 300s, they were giving me like $60 for 450 calls. So I shorted them, and of course, they got called away. But it was great money. I didn't repurchase them or anything, but wish I would have held them, right? But it was, who knows, right? So I met my goal, so I'm not going to argue about that. But is there? I don't want to tell someone they can't, right? Because you can buy it right now, and the volatility is high, and you can just buy it and sell calls, out of money calls against it, and just make it. What I want everyone to understand is you need to have a goal. If your goal is to just buy something and it's going to the moon and you get rich, let me tell you what's going to happen. You're not going to get rich. You're going to make money. You're going to keep making money. You're probably going to pull it out and buy something stupid with it. And then you're going to keep doing it. And sooner or later, you're going to lose it, right? Something's going to happen. You're going to lose it, especially if you're playing with options and things like that. So if you want to get in NVIDIA, then you buy it and you just do what you have to do. There's a lot of strategies around it. Do I think it's a good price? No, I think NVIDIA is overpriced, but I say that about everything. And first, let me say this. NVIDIA is going to crush it in 2024. They're going to kill it. They're also going to kill it in 2025. And I think this is just from an economic standpoint that the AI chips and everything that they make, there's going to be more demand than the supply. But let's just think about this. NVIDIA can make a lot of people can make chips, but NVIDIA's got a lead. Okay. But if there's so much money to be made, everyone else can do this. It's not like NVIDIA is some mastermind person in this, right? They don't make their own chips. So they're relying on someone. They're definitely relying on Samsung, because Samsung's the one that's giving them the memory for these AI chips. So that's a huge boom, although you can't buy. Most of y'all don't know you can't get Samsung here. You got to buy it in a different market. So I would say you'll probably see more AI competitors. I know there's a bunch, right? But they probably won't get any footing until at least 2026. And what I mean by that is they're going to put in supply. So will they reduce the demand, or will they actually meet the demand? Once supply is meeting the demand, because everybody's throwing money at it, then the margins are going to go down. NVIDIA is going to have to lower their prices or do whatever to fight it. So right now, I do not know NVIDIA's exact numbers right now because they're growing so crazy. But to put it like this, they might make 30 billion in income, maybe 40, who knows? And that's crazy compared to a few years ago when they were making like 9 billion. But it's almost to the market cap of Apple. Apple prints $100 billion profit, just cash money every year. And you're telling me they're the same? No, nope. I don't care what Apple, until they're printing $100 billion, they're not the best stock. And actually, Microsoft is more expensive than that. And I think Microsoft's printing pretty close to 100 billion too, right? So you have two companies over here that are just overshadowing it. I mean, Apple's probably got 70, 80 billion in cash on hand. I don't know what Microsoft has, but super stock, it's up there. But I don't know. It's probably overvalued. I don't want to say the amount because I'll make the NVIDIA fanboys mad, but by a lot. But that doesn't mean anything because, like I said, they're going to have a good year this year and they're going to have a good year next year. So let it ride. I don't know what to tell you. After that, more competition comes in, slows it down, right? So that's about it, man. And for example, you have other AI people like Apple and things like that. And I think Apple's biggest issue with their AI was probably their strict stance on data privacy and things like that, which NVIDIA, kind of gets away from by just being the hardware behind it. But might be there's going to be some huge issues with AI coming up. I don't know how that would affect NVIDIA rather than the operating system or whatever that it's actually just using their equipment. But who knows? We'll find out. It's a great company. I wish I owned it, but I don't at the moment. Right?
Okay. Well, Greg said it. Thanks, Greg. Do not forget, if you have questions or you just want to chat, we're here for you, brah. We got you, brah. Drop us a line at WNWshow@gmail.com or hit us up on socials at What's Next Wall Street.
Yeah, we want you and all your friends to catch all this action. So look for WNW Show or What's Next Wall Street Show on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Look, you can do searching inside of the Apple Podcast app now. And if you hear anything clever that we talked about, go in there, search for it, send it to a friend, share it, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications for all the latest updates. I am Dave Mathews in nature.
Yes, and I am Georgia Alfredas in my urban dwelling spot. I'll catch you next time on What's Next Wall Street.